Well, hello. How's it going? I am super excited to be here. So this is my first ever of my weekly lives. I'm gonna do this every single week at noon on Wednesdays, noon Eastern time. And so here I am, and I'm just in the middle right now of getting all my tech set up. So excuse me while I try to do that. But I'm super excited about this because I want to talk about this week's podcast episode, right? And this week's podcast episode was all about contrast. And what do I mean by contrast? Like, what am I talking about? So let me just finish getting set up here. And I won't do this every week. I swear to God. Like, I just like, as I get this, all right, I got it set up. I can see the comments. Hooray. I want to encourage you, if you're watching this, to go ahead and send in comments if you're watching this live. Obviously, if you're not watching it live, you can also, tell me, leave a comment here if you're watching the replay, and I'll be happy to answer them. But here we are. So, contrast. I have had a lot of people ask me a lot of different things, like, how is it that, like, how do people stand in their own way? Like, what is it that makes it difficult for people to change? And this isn't just about alcohol, by the way. This is about just about everything. And I would say that, like, one of the things, I have a series of things, but one of those things is howdy, Russ. How's it going, man? Glad you're here. Um, One of those things is this idea that we somehow identify ourselves as our behavior, right? And so this week's podcast episode, which you can find on my YouTube channel, if you go back or if you subscribe to it, in your whatever podcatcher you use, talk about this idea of contrast, the contrast between you and your behavior. And so often we get these two things intertwined in a way that I think is massively unhelpful and that really stops us from actually moving through the things we want to move through. Like, it actually stops us from making the change we want to make. Now, the obvious one here with me and a lot of you who are watching, either you're working on it or you have gone through it, is this idea of being an alcoholic. I hate that term and I don't use it. And I can do an entire episode on why I don't use that term. Maybe that'll be down the road. But one of the reasons I don't like it is that it almost boils down my entire experience to like one fact about me, right? So like one fact about me is somehow dictating what I am or who I am. And to me, that's gross. Like, I really, really, really don't like it. And so I think about this in terms of other things, right? So I don't use the term alcoholic outside of the fact that it's unscientific, but I don't use it because I don't define my life through this. I don't define my life through this period of time where I frankly acted in a way I didn't like. And if you're in that same boat, you know what I'm talking about. But there's no reason to define myself that way. And here's the thing. I have lots of other roles in my life. Like, I was talking about this on the podcast, and I see a few more people joined us. Howdy. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to say hello, drop me comments, drop me questions. Like, I'm here live. I definitely want to be here to answer any questions or thoughts or anything you have going on there. So please feel free to chime in, drop comments, drop questions. I'm here for it. But anyway, these like different areas of my life seem to, I don't know, they seem to almost come in. They're part of who I am, but they're not everything, right? So like, I'm a dad, right? I'm a husband. I'm a coach. I'm a citizen of Portland, Maine. I'm a citizen of the United States. I'm a citizen of the earth, right? I'm a fan of the Cleveland Guardians. I'm a massive fan of the Portland Hearts of Pine. Not a single one of those things is a defining characteristic. They're all pieces of me, right? And being someone who struggled with alcohol is a piece of me. Honestly, I look at it less as a label and an identity and more as like a phase. Like, it was a thing that I went through. Like, there was a period of time when I drank more than I wanted to, when I tried to stop, and it was really friggin' hard, right? And that's it. Like, that is it. I was thinking about it when I was thinking about how I wanted to talk about it today. And I was like, oh, you know what? It's like saying, like, there was a period of time when I lived in New York City. So I used to be a New Yorker. I'm no longer a New Yorker, right? I used to be in college. I don't identify as a college student. I used to be an engineer. I don't identify as an engineer. So you get the point, right? This whole idea, like this is something that that holds people back so much. Like I can't even tell you how often I see people standing in their own way about it, and it is a drag because the reality is like none of those things define you, right? You are a human. I am a human with a human experience. And so let me talk a little bit about why I see this holding people back and then like maybe what we can do about it. And again, if you are joining me live, hello, thank you for being here. Please feel free to drop questions or comments as we go along. So why does this hold people back? Well, I look at this a lot with people, and let's take the term alcoholic, right? Like when we identify with something, what that means when something is part of your identity is that it doesn't change, right? It's constant. It is you forever, right? It is you, and that's who you are, right? So, like on your gravestone, it lies, "Here lies Scott, comma alcoholic." It is so the way we talk about it is so inextricably linked and connected to like us as people that it is like part of our foundation, right? It's like me saying I'm 5'11", right? Like that's pretty like core to like when you see me and interact with me, like that's a pretty important fact. This is how a lot of people look at it. Now, the problem, right? The problem comes in when that identity, whatever it might mean, causes shame or causes anger or causes sadness, right? Because what you're essentially saying, if you think about it, right? If this is true, if like at your core you are an alcoholic, then what you're essentially saying is that at your core you are full of shame, that like you are unhappy with who you are deep down. I don't know about you, but like I don't see that as being a positive thing. And another piece of this idea of identity is that once we are that thing, like we are that thing. So you can't grow out of it. Right. So, like all of these things I mentioned, I used to be a college student. I used to live in New York City. I used to be an engineer. I've moved on from all of those things. Yes, that experience is in my past. Yes, that's part of kind of like how I lived and when I tell the story of my life, these are things that will come up, but they're not who I am. Why the hell is it that my behavior has to dictate my identity long term? You know? Like, why is it that my drinking behavior has to become a complete identity for me? And the reason that this holds people back is they start to feel that shame. And when you sort of identify yourself as a thing, if you identify yourself as an alcoholic, well, then why even bother trying to change it? If it can't be changed, right? Like, why try to change that behavior? The bottom line is this: alcohol was a thing I did. It wasn't a thing I am, right? Being stuck with alcohol was something that I suffered from, and it sucked so much. Like I hated it so much, but it wasn't the be all end all, right? It wasn't the thing that is me. There is no world in which on my gravestone it says, "Here lies Scott Penyard, comma, alcoholic." I'm so much more. And you don't need to look much farther than to look at the different people in your life and recognize how they see you, right? Like my kids don't see me as an alcoholic. My wife doesn't see me that way. The people I work with don't see me that way. The people in my neighborhood don't see me that way, right? All of these things are part of who I am, and that part of who I am, like it adds up to a whole, but it isn't the whole. And so a lot of people say to me, like, all right, Scott, fine, great. I get it. I get the idea, right? I am not that thing, right? That I don't need to take on this identity. I don't need to identify with my behavior, right? I don't need to be, specifically sort of, what's the term I'm trying to come up with here? Like, I don't need to label myself this in order to grow, but like, what do I do then? Like, what do I do if it seems like, I've got a problem with alcohol, right? I've got a problem with nicotine. I'm a smoker. I'm an ex smoker. I've got a problem with food. I'm an overeater, right? what do we do with this? Like, how do we handle feeling better about it? And my main piece of advice, and this is stuff I coach people on all the time, separate you from your behavior. There's a thing that I saw going around. This was years ago, and you might have seen it too. But there was this thing where people were saying, like, it was people with cancer. And so people were saying, like, I'm a cancer patient. But I saw, gosh, and I can't remember where. It was probably on social media somewhere, to be honest with you. But I saw it. I saw someone wearing a shirt that says, cancer is a thing my body is doing. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. Like, that's right. You're not cancer, right? You're not a cancer patient. That isn't an identity thing. It is a thing you're going through, right? Like, hair turning gray is a thing my body's doing. I'm not identifying as a gray headed person, right? So, all of this stuff can be very strong and it can be a big pull. And the reality is, identity is a thing that, well, honestly, social media plays out all the time. Our politics play out all the time. We all want to feel some sense of identity. We want to feel some sense of belonging. We want to feel, we want to be able to have some words to talk about. But at the end of the day, if you take a step back, you have been many different yous your entire life. I have been many different me's my entire life. There have been lots of different versions of Scott. And I think that's how it should be. I think that's what we're meant to be. Like, we're meant to, like, get information and grow. We're meant to go out into the world and do whatever we're going to do and, like, take that information and run with it. We're meant to change, to evolve, right? Whatever you want to call it. So, back to the question of, like, what do I do if I'm stuck with this, if this is making it heavy, right? And for a lot of people, the identity of the drinker or the smoker or the overweight person, right? That identity becomes something that makes it difficult for them to make progress because they feel stuck with it. They feel like they have to deal with it. So, one of the very first things, like I said, that I like to do is separate the person from the behavior. And so a lot of times I'll have people write down, like, what are your main, like, attributes? Like, what are the things that you're doing that are the most impactful? What are the things you're doing and, like, impactful in your life? So whether it's to your family, to your community, to for yourself, whatever, right? And you start looking at all of the different behaviors you exhibit, right? We tend to pick this one behavior and you're like, oh, because I do this thing so much, and yeah, it takes up an outsized amount of my life, but because I do this thing, I am this thing, right? Because I drink too much, I am an alcoholic. What I'm suggesting is look at all of the different things you do, right? Like, you go to work, or maybe you don't. You walk around the neighborhood every day. You have a dog or a cat, right? You have a family. You have people you're connected to, right? You do things for them, but, like, really start to list out all of these different things you do and look at all of these different places. When you do this, what starts to happen is it starts to become clear to you that this thing, whatever it is, it's just a piece of who you are, right? Like, this drinking thing, it's just a piece of who I was. At the point that I was still drinking, I had 2 kids, I had a wife, right? I was an engineer, I had a job, I connected with my family, I connected, outside of that. I did so many different things. And yet I would consistently boil down who I was to this one thing. And that one thing hurt. So if you find yourself, like, getting stuck on this and you find yourself like, man, I'm, like, carrying around this behavior. I'm carrying this around. I can't seem to get around the idea of this. Take a step back and, like, ask yourself, like, look at all of these different ways that you behave and ask yourself, like, which one of these do I want to identify with? The reality is each and every one of those are part of who you are. You are a person who communicates. You are a person who is watching this video. You are a person who maybe has a job or a family or a car. You are a person who does lots of different things. You are not that singular person who is an alcoholic. You are not that person that has to carry around that label. And when you start to look at it that way, whatever it is you're struggling with, whatever it is you're trying to change, it feels lighter because now it's turning into a thing that you're going through, not a thing that you are, not a thing that you're doomed to have, not a thing that you need to define yourself and carry around for the rest of your life, right? It is a thing you are doing. It is a place you are going. It is part of your journey right now, and it wasn't before, and it won't be someday down the road. As soon as we start to look at it that way instead of an identity, we start to feel significantly better because the reality is you are so much more than your behavior. Like I'm so much more than my behavior. All of us contain multitudes. We are lots of different things, and we don't have to select one piece of our journey or one part of our life to create an identity around. And when we do that, especially when we do it around the stuff that hurts, we end up inadvertently keeping ourselves stuck. And here's why, right? Like if you identify as an alcoholic and you build your identity as an alcoholic, and then you say, okay, I am an alcoholic, and you drink again, you're going to feel like shit. You're going to feel like, I can't escape this, because once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. This doesn't mean you can go out and drink, but it does mean that you are a person that grows and you're going through an evolution. There was a period in your life when this was a problem. Maybe it's still a problem, but eventually it won't be. You don't have to define yourself by it. And I don't know about you, but that makes me feel significantly better, right? When I don't define myself that way, I feel much, much happier. So anyway, those were my thoughts. So we're going a little bit deeper on the podcast. Just so everybody knows, by the way, like my podcasts come out Fridays, Friday Eastern time, Friday in the morning. And then on Wednesdays, I'll be here to kind of flesh it out a little bit more, go a little deeper. I would love it if you can join me. Put it in your calendar. Join me every Wednesday at noon. I'd love to see people here. I'd love for you to bring questions. You can ask me questions about what I'm talking about or really anything else. I'm loving it to be able to be here and answer questions and communicate with you. That is it for me. Stay tuned. If you haven't already subscribed to me on YouTube, please do that. I am at Scott Pinyard Coach. You can subscribe to me there. More videos coming out as this week goes on. Let me know what you think. Tell me in the comments here, no matter where you're watching. Tell me in the comments, what do you think of these ideas? Is this something that was helpful? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to hear about it. That is it from me, and I will be back next week. I'll see y'all soon.